Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are digging into one of the most confusing and high-pressure situations in hockey.
The Toronto Maple Leafs.
The Toronto Maple Leafs, right before the holiday break. This is a team that always lives under a microscope, but what we saw in December was a total paradox.
It really was. It forced management into this huge, radical, action-firing coach. At the exact same time, the team was somehow putting together this massive winning streak.
It makes no sense on the surface.
None. And we're pulling this all apart today using analysis from platforms like Hockey Prime, but really leaning on the reporting from Sportsnet and specifically journalist Elliotte Friedman.
Okay, so what's the headline news here? The big picture.
The big picture is the mid-season firing of assistant coach Marc Savard. This was purely a desperation move because the power play unit he was in charge of it had completely collapsed. We're talking worse than the league.
Yeah. And here's the mission of this deep dive for you. We need to figure out how that catastrophic failure leads to a firing, while the team is also dealing with a huge injury crisis on defense and had just won 3 straight dominant games.
Right. It's like two different teams were living under the same roof. One was failing spectacularly, and the other was suddenly succeeding.
It's a fascinating contradiction. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
We have to start with the power play crisis. That's what forced their hand.
It is. The move was fast and, frankly, pretty brutal given the timing. Assistant coach Marc Savard was let go on December 22nd, 2025.
Days before Christmas.
Days before Christmas. And you have to remember, he was hired by head coach Craig Berube. They worked together in St. Louis. They had a history.
So this wasn't just some random assistant.
Not at all. But that history didn't protect him when the results got this bad. The numbers just became toxic.
Yeah.
Getting fired that close to the holiday, that tells you the organization saw this as a genuine existential threat.
And when you say toxic, the numbers really back that up. This wasn't just a small slump.
Right.
At the time he was fired, Toronto was dead last in the entire NHL. A power play success rate of just 13.3%.
Which, for a team built around elite offensive talent like Auston Matthews, I mean, that's just an unforgivable number.
Can you put that in context for people? What's a good number?
Well, an elite power play is clicking around 25%. A top 10 unit is pretty much essential if you want to make a deep playoff run.
So 13% is?
Means you're basically wasting 2 minutes every single time the other team takes a penalty. It's a momentum killer.
And in December, it seems like things really came to a head.
Oh, absolutely. They scored only 2 power play goals. 2. In 27 chances for the entire month.
That's how you lose games. You're just giving away points in the standings at that rate.
And it all boiled over on a road trip, which is where these things always seem to happen. Right before the firing, they went on this awful 0-for-10 stretch.
Right, I remember that. It included losses to the Capitals and the Stars.
Exactly. And in that Washington game, they got shut out 4-0 and went 0-for-5 on the power play. In that game alone. It was just painful to watch.
And that's when the tension really started to show publicly.
It did. You had head coach Craig Berube, who's known for being blunt, just come out and call the power play performance.
Yeah.
His word was god-awful.
When the head coach says that, you know it's bad.
It signals a complete loss of confidence from within the coaching staff itself. And you started hearing it from the players.
Even Matthews, who is usually so careful with his words.
Right. Auston Matthews just said he wished the flow was a little bit better. For him, that's basically screaming that the system isn't working.
So management had to do something, but the response was interesting. They didn't blow everything up.
No, it was very targeted. Berube was safe. The GM Tree Living was safe. It was all put on Savard.
And they gave his duties to coaches who are already there.
Exactly. Derek Land and Mike Van Ryn. They kept it internal. The message was pretty clear.
Yeah.
We think the players are fine. The problem was the system, the implementation.
Which brings us to the structure itself. Because it wasn't just bad luck, there was a very specific criticism everyone was pointing to.
The Matthews deployment problem.
The Matthews deployment. It was the biggest lightning rod for criticism.
It was. The main issue was that they were using Auston Matthews at the point position on the power play.
So for anyone listening, that's way up high, near the blue line, where a defenseman usually plays.
Right. And it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes him great. Matthews is an elite sniper. His job is to be in the slot, ready for a one-timer.
Not passing the puck around at the top.
Exactly. You're turning your best shooter into a distributor. One analyst just called the whole setup a disgrace to hockey.
A bit dramatic, but you can see the point.
You can. It was neutering their primary weapon. And the stats, I mean, the stats just scream failure.
Only 3 power play goals for Matthews himself. He was ranked, what, like 63rd in the league for goals on the power play?
And 182nd in points. It's just staggering for a player of his caliber.
What's fascinating here is how fast this all fell apart.
That's the key. This wasn't a slow decline. Just the season before, 2024-2025, with basically the same group of guys, this power play was 9th in the NHL.
9th, clicking at almost 25%.
So to go from top 10 to dead last in just a few months, that tells you one thing. A major structural change was made, and it failed completely.
Which raises the question for Berube and his staff, why change it in the first place?
That's the million-dollar question. It seems like they were trying to fix something that wasn't broken.
And Matthews himself seemed to hint at that.
He did. He said he didn't think it was mental mistakes, which suggests it was about the process. The system itself was the problem. When your star player's saying that, the architect of that system, Savard, his time is up.
So you've got this offensive collapse on special teams, a coach gets fired, but that's not even the whole story.
Not even close.
Yeah.
At the exact same time, the team's foundation, its defense, was just getting hollowed out by injuries.
Right, let's talk about the blue line. It was a mess.
A total mess. It was testing their depth in a way that just compounded all the other problems. You had guys who were, maybe AHL level players being forced to play huge minutes.
The big scare was Oliver Ekman-Larsson, OEL. He went down in a game against San Jose.
Yeah, his ankle bent really awkwardly.
Yeah.
And he was having a great year. 4 goals, 16 assists. When you lose that kind of offense from your defense, it puts even more pressure on the forwards and that failing power play.
And he wasn't the only one out.
No, the list was long. Chris Tanev was out. Brendan Carlo was out with surgery. Dakota Mermis. They were basically missing half of their regular defensemen.
And that has a ripple effect, right? The guys who are left get tired, they take more penalties.
And you're right back to relying on the lead worst power play to bail you out. It's a vicious cycle.
The goaltending was shaky at that point, too.
It was. Joseph Wool went on injured reserve. Anthony Stolarz was also out. The situation was getting dire.
But there was a silver lining there, a really surprising one.
The kids.
Yeah.
The goaltending depth really stepped up. Dennis Hildeby, specifically.
He was incredible. He gets his first ever NHL shutout against a great Tampa Bay team.
29 saves. Then he follows that up with 33 saves in a shootout loss to Montreal. He was basically carrying the team and probably masking a lot of those defensive issues.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have this team trying to fix a broken power play on the fly while relying on rookies and call-ups just to stay afloat every night.
It's the kind of pressure cooker that usually makes a team completely fall apart.
Yet, they didn't. In fact, the opposite happened.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
This is the paradox. Despite the power play, despite the injuries, the team's overall performance it took off.
It completely flipped the script. They had a really mediocre November, a 6-6-2 record. They looked like they were slipping out of the playoff picture entirely.
And then on the road, against tough teams, something just clicked.
It really did. They went out and beat 3 legitimate playoff contenders. The Penguins, the Panthers, and the Hurricanes. And they didn't just beat them, they dominated them.
What was the goal differential in those games? It was something crazy.
16-4. A 16-4 goal differential in Toronto's favor. That's not luck. That's structural dominance at 5-on-5.
And the reports, the analysis, it all pointed